Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us for our weather video for Wednesday, September 7th. And we're tracking a big high rolling into the New Zealand area and a big low moving into Australia. Let's take a look and see what's happening. Here is the high. As it moves into New Zealand, the colder southerly flow is dominant, and then once the high comes in itself, that locks in some colder nights. So we've got that coming up. But then as it moves on through, as Australia's noticing now, the milder northerlies come through. And with a low pressure system in here as well, that means wet weather coming in for Adelaide. And over the next few days, a fair amount of rain coming in for eastern inland parts of Australia. But this big high is the main feature for New Zealand over the next few days before the next wintry change arrives. Now, we do have another one next week in New Zealand. To give you an idea, temperatures this weekend around Gore in the lower part of the South Island, daytime high on Sunday around 17 degrees, but next week, the start of next week, your daytime highs are around 7, a 10-degree drop. Now that's what we mean by spring-like weather. And we've had a few pushbacks from people saying it's not spring because of the snow and the cold, but if we didn't have snow and cold weather in spring, wouldn't it just be summer? Because summer's hot and dry and settled. So spring is all about winter slowly fading away and hints of summer slowly coming in. And if you ask people in the Northern Hemisphere in places like northern parts of Europe or Canada, they'll often tell you spring brings some of the worst snowstorms, and that's because of that combination of warm plus cold, which we just saw in the New Zealand area. So at the moment, not a lot to talk about. This high is rolling on through for New Zealand, and as it comes in, easterlies are going to develop at the top of the country, but northerlies elsewhere, and we'll be seeing that low also coming through, and behind it, that's the cold southerly we're talking about that will reach New Zealand by Tuesday next week. Let's take a look at the rainfall for the next few days ahead. So we've got a bit more rain for northern New Zealand. I mentioned those easterlies coming back in again. You can see that here, lining up around the Western Bay of Plenty and eastern parts of Coromandel Peninsula. So temperatures in that rainfall in that area, 15 to 20 millimetres over those 3 days from 6 o'clock Wednesday morning today. Elsewhere, the yellow is only showing 5 to 10. So it's really just showing showers around the North Island and 1 or 2 showers down here. The blue and the green at the very bottom of the scale there, not very much, just a few showers or a risk of a shower. Now, Australia's got more in the way of rain coming in from that low, pushing through. So Adelaide starts it and then it moves in to inland areas, but you'll notice the totals, the highest totals, are actually west of the main ranges and north of the Yarra Ranges, up around Wagga Wagga and other areas like that. So a fair amount of rain, 50 millimetres or so coming through for you also over the next 3 days as that rain sort of piles up against the hills. Not so much over in the east, only 5 to 10 millimetres, for example, in Sydney. And we've got some cold weather, as I said, tonight is going to be cold around New Zealand. For the North Island, it'll be a couple of degrees cooler than usual. And for the south, normal really weather for Canterbury, but colder than usual at the very bottom here down around Southland. So we do have frosts. You can see these frost maps at weatherwatch.co.nz. Click on maps and radars. The drop down will show temperatures. We're going to make that a bit more straightforward next year. I think we're going to make some updates to our website. But you can see here tonight in the purple, frosts, frosty here too. There might be a few frosts elsewhere in the North Island, but it won't be as cold tonight as it was last night. And then as we go through into Friday morning, so Thursday night, Friday morning, the frost in the South Island becoming more inland. So in Southland also getting a bit more frosty weather coming through over the next couple of nights compared to where you've been. So let's get into the forecast now. Here we are for Thursday. There is that high rolling in and those light easterlies I was telling you about. You can see a few showers just here and there, but it's not really locked in for much yet. Over in Australia, there is that rainmaker with the northerly winds, so it piles up on the ranges to the north and to the west of those ranges, and you'll be seeing that all the way across parts of Victoria, northern Victoria, and inland parts of New South Wales in particular, with mild northerly winds on this side and cooler southerlies over on that side. By the end of the week, that rainmaker on Friday moves mostly out to sea and just a few showers around with a colder southerly coming through. In New Zealand, the high tracks over and those easterly winds become a little bit more set in, and a small area of low pressure to the north, what we call a trough, or I like to call them just a pothole in the sky, because they're not really doing a lot, but they fill up with a bit of water. And so you see these rainfall areas around the Coromandel where that easterly wind will blow in a few showers. And that remains that way on Saturday as that trough sort of comes down and in on the back end of the high. It's a bit unfortunate for those who are over the rain, but remember, we've had 5 years of rainfall deficit. So this is really good for the aquifers under the ground and for our waterways and also our native bush, which has been suffering a lot over the last half decade in the North Island in particular. But that's just a bit of cold comfort maybe for you guys as we go into Saturday's weather. And in Australia, the colder sou'wester comes through for you and a bit windy around Bass Strait. And as we get into Sunday, northerly winds coming down over New Zealand on the back of that high. The trough's fallen apart. A couple of showers linger, but this is mild. And that's what we were talking about, those mild northerly winds coming down across New Zealand, warming up places all around here on Sunday. But as we go into next week, you can see on Monday that southerly change coming into Australia. So the blue line, which measures air thickness, rather than just telling you how cold it is on the ground, this tells you, that blue line, that the cold weather is taking a big chunk out of the atmosphere, and you'll feel that cold weather going all the way up. So on Monday, that comes into Victoria and Tasmania. Doesn't quite get into New Zealand yet. You've got a westerly flow, showers on the western side of the country. But it's when we go to Tuesday that you can really see the setup quite clearly. So the high comes into Tasmania. Colder night for you coming through on Tuesday night. But down here south of New Zealand, we've got a bit of a storm system. Very normal for this time of the year to see big lows and big highs, and normal to see a change like this. This is quite spring-like because, as I said, on the Sunday, it's warm, and by Tuesday, it's wintry again with snow flurries, mostly up in the mountains and ranges. We're not forecasting sea level snow at this stage, but again, like we saw this week, there might be a few flurries that go low down and then they disappear just a few hours later. That is all from me for today. I'll be back again tomorrow with our next update and also more of an outlook for this system coming through next week. We'll try and lock in a bit more detail for you then. We'll see you tomorrow.